Are you thinking about moving on to a larger piece of property and out of the city for a more sustainable lifestyle? Well, I think the temperate climate of the Pacific Northwest and mainly west of the Cascade Mountains is the perfect place to locate. We have a long growing season, moderate summer and winter temperatures, and many areas such as Idaho are in USDA climate zones which require a greenhouse for much more of the growing season than in the Pacific Northwest, west of the Cascades. Now, I'm not going to tell you you won't need a greenhouse because it's always great to extend your growing season either early or late, but we have an awesome growing climate here. And the big plus about Washington is there is no state income tax. You don't even file a state income tax return. So whether you're looking to move to the country for a more sustainable lifestyle, or you're looking to sell your rural property, I am your go-to guy for both buying and selling your rural property. I am approaching 50,000 views on my YouTube channel, and I attract folks like you from all over the world. Many are cash buyers from California. This is part one of a multi-part comprehensive series on making a transition to living on acreage. To be included in this video series, how and where to locate, land features and what to look for, soil types that grow great crops, getting the most for your money, buy raw land and build your own home, or buy an existing property with a home on it already, and more. My focus here is not total self-sufficiency, that is a hard hill to climb, but rather the potential to become more self-sufficient over time. My wife and I are still working, so locating within a reasonable driving distance to our jobs was very important. And although we would love to move further away than what we did, between the fact that we are still working and we are at the peak of our earning potential of our lifetime, and the fact that we have family that lives so close, these are the factors that led to us locating where we did. In an earlier video shown here, relocate to reduce your retirement cost of living. I am expanding on that video with this multi-part series, and this is after we have actually moved from our floating home in Portland to 5 acres in Washington. My multi-part series on floating homes have been my most popular videos that I have made. I've had more reach outs based on that 4-part series than any other subject, and I expect this series to do the same. So whether you are interested in moving from a higher cost area like the Bay Area or LA, I have lots of experience with relocating folks to the area with success and without buyer's remorse. I don't do buyer's remorse. Or maybe you're currently living in Portland or Vancouver or a similar area. Income taxes are tearing you up, and you wish to have a lifestyle that's more peaceful and self-sufficient, as we did. Then this video series is for you. Remember to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you will be notified when each of my new videos is available to watch. And in most cases, folks moving even from the Portland, Vancouver area that currently own a home, we moved from Portland to 5 acres for no more money than we got out of the sale of our departing home. So it's a change of lifestyle, not necessarily, it'd be great to spend more money, but not necessarily more expensive. In fact, my wife and I have reduced our expenses by making this move. So with that, I am Joseph Nelson, finding that it's too easy for email reach outs to get lost in the spam folder. The preferred method to contact me would be text or a phone call. And all of my contact information is shown below each video in the Show More section. So we're going to start this series by answering the question, why are people moving to an area that has more land? And people are doing this in a statistical significant way. Why? There are many reasons and degrees of fear and confidence about living in the city. And we will call it societal breakdown. The banking system, the dollar being devalued, inflation, recession, depression, large and small businesses closing due to poor performance and crime. Utility rates are skyrocketing. I recently sold a home to a gentleman from LA whose monthly electric bill was $400. And in Ridgefield, Washington, where he will pay no income tax, his new Energy Star home, it's estimated that his electric bill will be about $100 a month. The global economy, threats of world war, divisive politics. No matter what side you're on, politics are extremely divisive. Property crime out of control, and in the city of Portland especially, no police response to calls about property crime. People not feeling safe anymore in the downtown core. The homeless population growing, and nobody seems to know what to do about it. Blight in our cities with graffiti and garbage. Drug use being decriminalized. These are common themes in most of the West Coast cities of the United States, and Portland is no exception. The fact is that living in a rural setting has proven to be a better place to live when things go south. But fear should not be your only reason to move to property. It should be a lifestyle that is appealing. Growing your own fruits and vegetables, raising chickens for eggs and protein. One of the projects that my wife and I are doing, we've got some turkey poults. By November, they're supposed to be about 32 pounds. Try finding those in the store. Cutting your own firewood for heat, not having a heat bill. Seeing the stars without light pollution from the city. The quietness, other than a few birds chirping, which you may hear in this video, and maybe an occasional dog barking. Sharing your property with wildlife. I know people who are a lot more conspiracy theory based than I am. I take everything with a grain of salt, but sometimes I think with our access to information we get too much, and at other times we don't get enough. The fact is that moving to a rural location is a lifestyle you must be able to see yourself enjoying and actually want. Just like a floating home lifestyle, rural property living is a lifestyle. Our move to a more sustainable property about 3 months ago has proven to provide a huge reduction in anxiety over the societal issues that the cities produce. Immediately after moving, well, after we got everything moved in and rested up, we felt a contrast, a stark contrast of peace of mind. I don't think we realized how much the societal issues had impacted us until after we moved. The people working in the businesses here locally are even much more friendly. Even the younger people seem to be motivated to give good service and are friendly to talk to. It's amazing how much, with our current perspective, we had become accustomed to what had become normal in our lives. And it takes a change of atmosphere to drive home just how much we had let our expectations be watered down. Rural living is also a great lifestyle for kids. Our kids want to know why we didn't live here when they were growing up. They love coming here and spending time with us and enjoying the property. My mom was worried about my wife being from San Francisco and spending 30 years in Hawaii, that she would be like Zsa Zsa Gabor in Green Acres. She was from New York and they moved to the country, and she did not like it at all. But my wife is adjusting well to living on rural property and even got herself a pair of overalls. And she likes operating our tractor and mowing the lawn with our riding lawnmower. If you are like us, we are both 65 right now, you're going to need equipment to augment what our bodies used to be able to do without. We are not lazy, but we realize making the desired changes and improvements to our property is going to require some tools, or we would just have to hire it out, and we would rather buy tools than buy labor. We find ourselves sitting outside in the evenings and on weekends after the chores are done, enjoying the quiet, simple things like listening to the birds, watching the dog enjoy a little more freedom than she had in the past. She loves chasing bunnies. We have about a fenced acre around our house. Inside this acre is our home, a large lawn, chicken coop, an emerging food production area. Admittedly, nothing there yet. But we have plans of planting fruit trees, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and having a vegetable garden. We do have an electric gate. This adds to security and keeps the dog safe. Okay, next, let's talk about budget and expectations. Everyone has a budget, whether it's $400,000 or $5 million. I'm using $400,000 as a baseline for entering rural property, but realistically, you're not going to have many choices until you hit about 500,000. There are a few opportunities in the 400s, but I can tell you if that's your hard budget, you're not going to have a lot of inventory to look at. And in many cases, the condition of the homes will not allow for financing. My wife and I entered the market in the mid-500s, and we had a reasonable selection to choose from. So it doesn't matter what your budget is, small to large. We all have expectations that exceed what we're going to get for our money. In fact, the more you spend, the larger your budget, I found that we expect more. And there's a range between about 500,000 and 800,000 where we have the most inventory. But regardless of your budget, we're always going to be fighting a few property features as we evaluate one property against another. The 4 primary things of consideration when looking for rural property are, number 1, location. The further we travel from the city, the less the property values are. Number 2, the condition and size of the home. Number 3, the usability of the land. Number 4, is there a shop or barns existing on the property? And what kind of condition are those in? Life is full of decisions we must make. These decisions are based on a series of compromises, and real estate is no exception. The property that my wife and I ended up buying had this going for it. Location was great. We still both work, and commuting to and from work was important to us. Number 2, the condition and size of the home. We ultimately ended up buying a piece of property that had a manufactured home on it. And this is not a fixer. We have things we want to do to it, but it would have been financeable should we have financed, but we actually paid cash for this property from the sale of our departing home. Number 3, usability of the property. It's about 5 acres. It has about 1.5 acres of flat land around the house, and this is very usable. It drains well, and the balance of the property goes into a little bit of a gully, and there's a creek in the bottom, and this is all a wooded natural area, which doesn't require a lot of work. So the 1.5 acres of flat land gives us adequate property to meet our goals for self-sufficiency. And the added property just adds to another dimension of use and enjoyment with wildlife, deer, coyotes we hear at night. The additional property makes it very quiet. There was already a structure that they use for goats that we are using for chickens, so we have chickens already. No eggs yet. We have a lifetime supply of firewood here in the wooded area. There are some dead standing trees, and those are primed for removal first because it will be seasoned and ready to burn immediately. We have great privacy from neighbors, and it is mostly fenced. We are not personally interested in livestock, horses or cattle. So we don't need or want property like 5 acres of pasture because that's just an additional workload that we're not interested in at this point in our life. Number 4, the outbuildings. The property came with about a 4-year-old 1,200 square foot shop with 14-foot roll-up doors and a nice concrete floor, and was fully wired with 200 amp electrical service. The property was ultimately within our budget and fit our goal of not desiring to have a mortgage at this time of our life. So using the proceeds from the sale of our departing home to fully fund our new property. I'll tell you, more expensive properties, even just 50 or 100,000 more, were quite seductive, but would have required a small mortgage. And I inquired with my mortgage broker, and they really don't write mortgages of less than about 100,000. But we stood strong with our goal of not having a mortgage, and this property was the best one for us. And newsflash, our solar power system will be installed on the 30th of May. And this is pretty exciting for our goal of being more self-sufficient and reduce our long-term expenses as electricity gets more expensive. Over the decades, through retirement, we'll have a monthly payment for the cost of our solar system, but that will never go up. Electric rates will go up. That is almost as certain as death and taxes. So my point is, I can use my experience, and I have lived on rural property in the past, and so all my experience is not in the last 3 months, but I can use my experience to help you buy or sell your home on land. So it took us 6 months to get an offer on our property. We put it on the market just as the interest rates were going up. And we had our new property in contract the next day because we followed my advice for buying your next home in the current market. See this video. There's no sense in me going over it again. But in a nutshell, in this current market, contrary to my previous advice when money was cheap and easy to get, buy your next home before you sell your old one, no. Currently, sell your old home, use those proceeds to buy your new one. But watch that video. But my advice worked flawlessly. We were homeless for 2 hours between the time our departing residence closed and funded until our new home recorded was 2 hours. But not all the process was rosy. I gave myself 2 hernias moving. I guess I should have hired out more of the moving work than I did. But I have a newfound appreciation and empathy for folks that are moving. So that's a good thing. Okay, this is the end of part 1. In the next video, I'm going to start out by talking about the specific land types by use. How much land do you need? You won't want to miss it. So if you have not done so yet, subscribe to my channel. There's a watermark on this video in the lower right-hand corner. You can press that and subscribe. So look for part 2 next week. In the meantime, blessings and peace be with you. Thank you.